Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining this morning. Let me just make sure the record button is pushed. It is. Excellent. Okay, so in regards to today, sorry, before we introduce ourselves, in regards to today, we're here to look at searching refinements. So today is very much just in regards to how can we change our mentality, how can we utilize certain options that maybe we haven't utilized before. So quick introduction for those of you who maybe don't know who we are. So my name is Thomas Rickard. I'm a customer success manager here at LinkedIn. I will be working alongside Natalia, who will introduce herself now in a moment. We manage all of the training and all of the LinkedIn members in Central and Eastern Europe. So I'm going to run the webcast today. Natalia will be the one contacting you in regards to follow-up. So I'm just going to unmute Natalia now if she'd like to introduce herself. Natalia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, everyone. This is Natalia Formala speaking, and I'm a new customer success manager dedicated to your organization, so I'm happy to meet you all today. I have successful track record in account management and training, and also I will be also supporting you on the journey here at LinkedIn. Also, I encourage you to visit the website I created for you. This will also give you more information about searching features on LinkedIn. I will send you the link afterwards so you can see the content, you can check any tips that I have prepared for you. And in case of any follow-up questions, you can always shoot me an email.
Brilliant. Thank you, Natalia. Yeah, sorry, something I should have mentioned. So we are working together. So those of you who have my contact details from maybe some other talks that you've been on that I've given, feel free to contact me, or if you have Natalia's, it doesn't really make a difference. Once it reaches one of us, we'll be able to answer your question. So I know we're scheduled today for an hour. As always, the way I introduce myself and the way I conduct these webcasts, they are not product heavy. So we will probably not need the full hour, and that's a conscious decision. I always like to have more time than less time, depending on the questions. This session is recorded, so everybody will receive a copy of the recording, and you will also receive a copy of the presentation, because there are some slides with a lot of information. I'm wary and conscious that not all the information will be picked up, so once we send out the presentation afterwards, you can read and you can digest it really yourself. But let's continue. So in the way of an agenda, we're going to look at the need for change. So I mentioned in terms of, sort of changing the mentality. So how can we change away from being an order taker to an actual strategic partner? We're going to look at some search essentials, how we can get creative, refining efforts, and then tracking talent. So some of this, guys, may be some bits that maybe you've seen me do before or seen Natalia do before. And that may be so. Some of this, we may have gone over it when I was with you guys in Poland, but there are a lot of this that I haven't went through yet. So please bear with us, and hopefully it will all make sense by the end of it. So how can we move away from being an order taker to a strategic partner? But first, a quick point on this. In order to really meet your key talent acquisition objectives, or your HR objectives, depending on what your title is, we first really should take a look at the evolution of recruiting and where your organization is today. So many companies are moving toward a model where they're developing sourcing expertise in-house, using automation to personalize their job opportunities, ensuring the right talent brand is in front of the right individuals, and arming the recruiters with access to the right talent pools. They're moving away from a reactive, traditional model towards a proactive, strategic partner. A strategic approach, I should say. So if we look at this slide, in terms of sourcing, so, really what you want to do is develop in-house sourcing and pipeline expertise. I know when I spoke to you guys, you have sales targets as well as HR targets. You're not connected to a CRM, from what I told you. You just create your own talent pool. But we do want to move away from the post and pray. We want to have a targeted and a personalized approach to everything that we do. So in terms of content when reaching out to people, but also how we match profiles. So it needs to be a targeted approach to that. In terms of branding, we've moved from not having any sort of consideration for a personal brand. So, as little as 5 or 6 years ago, anybody working in HR or talent acquisition, we wouldn't have even given a second thought to personal brand. But now we do. Now it's very much moved away from no thought to you must be thinking about this every second. We must develop an employee branding strategy. And then finally, metrics. We've moved away really from having no metrics to now using, data to improve recruiting efficiencies, and ultimately this helps us shape our business strategy. And even one of the reasons why we're doing this session today is we know when we introduced this 2 weeks ago, we showed a certain level of data, and that's how we decide in terms of how we can customize the training. That's how we decide what we're doing. So data is so important. But really, this is interesting from your standpoint. I'd be asking the question is, where do you think you are in this evolution? As always, guys, apologies. I will monitor the chat box throughout the session. I forgot to say that at the start. Pop any questions you have through at any time. If I can pause during the session, I will. If not, I'll just revert back to it at the end of the session. So, back on track here. If we think about what we just spoke about, why is this important? It's important for this reason. The bottom line impact of top talent is real. And we can see some statistics here. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but the first one, the best developer at Apple is 9 times more productive than the average software engineer at any other technology company. And then the last one I'll go through was the last one. The best transplant surgeon at a top medical clinic has a success rate of over 6 times better than the average transplant surgery. So really, why is all this important? There is a means to an end. It just means if you have a strategic approach to how you go about recruiting, or I know some of you have sales targets, so how you go about selling, the bottom line of that, the real impact of that, it is the top talent is real, and this is what it can produce. So really, we don't want you guys to just dive straight in. And what I mean by that is you want to have a really robust intake meeting with your hiring manager. You really want to research and refine your talent pool with data that is available to you. I'm a big fan of data, and I speak about it at length. I would have explained this to you guys when I met you in Poland, that LinkedIn, 2 things really. Number one is behind the scenes at LinkedIn, we have access to so much data that we can provide if asked. And I know I would have showed you talent pools, and also if you remember the slide with in-mails, I was able to show you, what time you get the best success rates and how long your in-mail should be. But also you guys yourself, through your recruiter tool, have access to so much data via your insights tab. You really should be utilizing that information, and from that information you can build your strategy. Once all this is done, then you obviously have a follow-up strategy with your hiring manager. From a sales perspective, I'd be mapping out my territory, figuring out, who are the big players in my industry, how can I map movements, which we will show you today. And then from a TA perspective, who within my competitor space, who's doing what? How can I get ahead of the curve? How can I beat them at what they're doing? How can I track, let's say, open jobs that they have available, so I know what they're doing? So that's the goal of today, guys. How can we step up the search game? So there's 3 levels of searching. Number 1, keyword or title searching. Number 2 would be Boolean searching, taking the core concept and stretching it out then. And number 3 then would be indirect searching. So in a keyword search, you'd commonly use keywords and job titles to conduct a simple search. So this is really the most general and the most straightforward. In a Boolean search, you build on the concept of a keyword search to expand the possible matches. Just on Boolean, that is one of the topics that we will be covering, I believe, next month. So in terms of Boolean, you can do this using the filters on the left-hand side. And as we mentioned earlier, just this is an example of how you can expand it. And so if we look at the project manager keyword and we use the filters within the tool, the goal here really is to broaden the search as much as possible in a way that makes sense, and make sure to cover any titles that the ideal candidates could possibly have. We all know, and we all speak about this at length, there is more than one way to say what you do, whether it be in sales, whether it be in project management, whether you're a dentist. There's more than one way to say what you do. So it's really a case of trying to crack that code, try and think outside the box, try and think like a candidate, and that will help you then. Obviously then you can put in your preferred skills, that will always be the same. So if it's sales, it'll always be sales related. There's no code to crack, let's say, under the skills section. But just it's important to note on the filters that the filters mimic your Boolean modifier. So depending on, let's say, the wording you use in Boolean, but not just the wording, depending on the order in which you use them in Boolean, that will have a direct interference then with the results. So if you're not getting much success using one search string, change the order before you change the wording. In addition to this, we can see on the right all the options you have. You can also use the not modifier. So not is what we call an exclusionary term. So if you want to remove anybody from the search. Okay, now I know Boolean is one of the topics that we will run a session on, but just on this screen, because I know there's often a lot of questions with Boolean, I'm just going to pause briefly for any questions, guys, just to pop them through the chat box. Okay, one of the questions on the modifiers. So yes, there are more modifiers available with Boolean, but, and I use the word but, LinkedIn, you can only use 5. Okay, so you can only use 5 modifiers in LinkedIn. If you use any of the any other ones, you'll just confuse the search. So if you put in like a plus sign or a minus sign, you'll just confuse the search. Okay, I do have some more questions coming through about Boolean. Guys, it is a different topic. It's another session we're going to do. Just the idea of today isn't to concentrate solely on Boolean, so I don't want to spend too much time in showing Boolean, but just it is another topic that we will cover at length. Okay, so on the left-hand side here, this would be within your search results. You can see the keywords option, but you can run a Boolean straight from the recruiter search. So you can develop the search there. It can be entered on the left-hand side of the tool or here. And here's a few examples. Sorry, no, sorry, apologies, guys. I've got my things mixed up. This is how you would do what we would call a lookalike search. So you can leverage somebody's experience to find similar profiles. Sorry, guys, I messed up there on my slide deck. So, for example, sometimes it's very difficult to say what makes the perfect candidate. So, what makes a perfect employee? It's very easy to say, well, I want them to have so many years experience, or I want them to, come from a particular company. And that is still very important, and it's still something to bear in mind when running searches. But a lot of the time, and particularly within roles, if we think of even some of our colleagues who are successful within their job, everybody has a different levels of background, everybody has different experience, and sometimes the most successful people within a role are the ones who would not have been best qualified on paper. So maybe they don't have the degree you wanted, or instead of 10 years experience, they have 6 years experience, but you gave them a chance because, they showed drive and commitment. Whatever the case may be, you can run searches purely based on people's skills. So sometimes it's a lot easier just to say, you know what, Jenny over there in HR, she's really good. But on paper, we probably wouldn't have looked to hire her, but she's really good at her role. She's a rock star. I want another Jenny. Well, now you can do that. So we can use to find find more people like searching by just simply typing in their names, and in this instance, it's Clement. So give that a go. Okay, any questions on that, guys? How many? 3. So I would always search via 3. So it's not always possible. So I mean, you can absolutely search by 1 or 2, but you can do 3. It's just the reason not to put in. I would always say less is more. So in this instance, I would just search via Clement, maybe one other person, because everybody's experience is so vast. You may not get the, let's say, that much of a talent pool, but or you may get loads. It's difficult to say without running some searches live, but just try yourself via 1. If you don't get many via 1, try 2. If you get too many via 2, try 1, and you figure it out, I suppose. So once you've clicked to find more people like, you'll get similar profiles based on the job titles, their companies, their skills, and other sort of keywords that are in the profiles. This is a quick and easy way to arrive at a good search without having to use a complex Boolean string. You can also exclude certain filters, such as your client's company. Now, this is not going to be your one and only source of finding a candidate, but it's a good starting point. And the reason it's a good starting point is we can see here the left-hand side has been pre-populated. So a lot of the hard work has been done for us. Okay, so now let's look at sort of refining the searches. Filters and Boolean really starts to plot the map, but we can drill down further. So Recruiter can show you a picture and provide a visual representation of your search results. I mentioned Insights. I mentioned that at the outset. So if we click on the Insights tab, we can see a detailed analysis and the background of our search results. So as we can see, the Search Insights will give us, quick graphs to show us past and present companies, as well as things like field of study, school, as well, and it's a quick way to see current locations and know where the candidates are coming from. Sorry, before I move on to the back, I didn't highlight it in this screen grab, guys, but you can see on the right it says print. I would bring this to my manager meetings. So in terms of forming a strategy from a sales perspective, this will help us map the talent pools available to us for the type of for what we're trying to do. So I would bring this to a manager meeting and form a strategy around it. Okay, I'm going to target everybody within this industry, or let's say everybody fresh out of this university to get a jump start ahead of my competition. But just what I'm trying to emphasize here is you can print this off and you can bring this to any sort of manager meeting, which will help you form a strategy. Okay, back to the filters. So in addition to the filters, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, there's also a number of advanced options so built into the tool. So if we click on advanced, as you can imagine, there's loads of useful cases to use all of these filters, but I just want to call out a few that I think are particularly helpful. So under candidate details, you can see a filter for those who have recently joined LinkedIn. So this is a great way to see people who've just joined the platform, and they may be ready to make a move, and it's likely that they haven't been contacted via the recruiter yet. So that's really important, guys. So what I would say is they've joined LinkedIn for a reason, and the chances are they probably haven't been contacted yet because they're so new. Also under the candidate details, on the right-hand side there, we see network connections or network relationships. So this is really useful means to target your outreach based on the degree in which you are already connected to that particular person. And you can leverage those common relationships by mentioning them in an email. Or if you're struggling to get any sort of engagement, why not get your connection, whoever you're connected to, so who's the middle person there, why not get them to do a warm introduction for you? In theory, you should know everybody who you're connected to on LinkedIn. And in this instance, I would ask whoever, maybe it's a former colleague or it's a friend of mine, I would ask them to do a warm introduction. Under our education and experiences, we can see the number of years in current positions, and that can help us target those who have been in the role maybe quite a while and are ready to move on. We know, statistically speaking, the average tenure now, it's changed a lot. The average tenure now, so anybody within a role between 2 to, I think it's 4 years, you're more likely to get some sort of engagement, because that's the time frame in which people start to consider their options. And their options either to, let's say, look for a promotion or externally look, so 2 to 4 years. And then finally, company type and size can be helpful. So for example, if you're recruiting for a startup, or you want to look for candidates with experiences in small company environments. And finally, in the recruiting and candidate activity section, you can filter specifically for candidates who you or your colleagues have or have not reached out to before. So this is a great way not to duplicate others' work, and keep yourself organized as a team so you aren't repeatedly reaching out to the same candidates. One point on that, and apologies, I probably should have highlighted it on this slide. Just on the right-hand side of recruiting activity, you will see hide previously viewed. So that's a way in which you can hide anybody that you have viewed already on that search. So a question I always get asked is, how can I stop seeing the same people over and over again? If you click on hide previously viewed, that's how you do it. Okay guys, once again, just going to pause for a brief moment to take any questions that you may have on that particular piece and anything under the advanced option. Okay, a question I got asked was, theirs looks different. They don't see all of these options. Everybody has the same options. However, under advanced, there's about 25 different filters. I've just highlighted a few of them, but there's about 25 different filters. They're memory based. So, for example, if you use current companies or company followers, that would then appear on the left-hand side the next time you're in a search, rather than being under the advanced. So we just try and save you some time and try and use a smart system, basically. So it's memory based. Everybody's will look different as you use the tool, but everybody has the same functionality and the same options, but yours just may look different depending on the ones that you're using. So I hope that's clear. Okay. And last thing here on searching, I wanted to show you the spotlights. So spotlights are more or less like filters, but they're automated for you. So the 3 strongest that I will show you along the top of your search, the top of your search results, but more can be uncovered by clicking the arrow on the right hand side, and you can see there that there's a drop down. So spotlights highlight search results based on criteria that might make them more likely to be receptive to your opportunity. So might make them more receptive, meaning they may respond or they may be interested in the role itself. Maybe both. So firstly, more likely to respond. So these are people who we have identified that are just really active on LinkedIn. They're really active in every way possible. So just super users, let's say. They like statuses, they comment on statuses, they share statuses, they regularly send and receive emails. So they're just super users, super active. So we think you're more likely to get some sort of response from these guys. Next up, we have open to opportunities, and this meaning that a candidate has privately or anonymously signaled that they're willing and open to speak to you about whatever search, whatever role it is that you're looking for. I use the word anonymously because the question I get asked all the time is, like, how is it anonymous? What does it mean? For example, within LinkedIn right now, if somebody within the HR team runs a search, and I have selected that I'm open to an opportunity, I will not appear to that person. So nobody within your current company can see it. Lastly then, the engage with your talent brand. Now, when I showed you this, guys, because I know I remember asking the room, what does anybody know what this one means? And the answer was, these are people who, these are company followers. They're not your company followers. And it's the reason why I asked you. So I want to reinforce this message. Company followers is a different tab, which you will find under the advanced filter options. Engage with your talent brand are people who have in the past publicly engaged with your brand by liking or commenting on updates or a job post. So you're more likely to get some sort of response. And that's statistically speaking because they're engaged already. Unfortunately, we can't tell you when they've engaged or what status maybe they've liked or shared. We can't tell you that because the information is not meant to be used for that purpose. So you can't reference. We don't want you referencing it when you're speaking to them. But we can just tell you that at some point they have engaged with your brand. In terms then of what's new, so you can also filter by preferred location. So we can see here current or preferred. I would have introduced that previously as open to relocate. You would have heard me mentioning open to relocate. So if you click on location and then click current and preferred, you will then see people who are open to relocating to that particular location. Also, we can check now, we've added 2 new employment types. One is contract work, and secondly is internships. We all have examples and experiences of trying to fill a contract role, and we know that it can be difficult sometimes because there's a little bit of uncertainty around it. But the same way in which people now turn on that they're open to a new opportunity, they can also select that they're open to contract work, they're open to internship work, and they're open to relocating. So it's under the same section. Now, really after diving into any spotlight, it's a great idea to save the search and set up an alert so that you're notified of new warm leads. So an example would be to set an alert specifically for those within your search who are open to new opportunities. And by doing this, you'll receive notification each time someone who meets your search criteria switches and open to opportunity, switches on open to opportunities on their profiles. So once I click on that button, I get this. I can also add it to a project, which we can see there. And I just click on save. And lastly, just keep where it says to see the tick box, yes, send alerts to my homepage and email. You can turn that off if you get frustrated by emails, and you can still see who's being added when you go to look at the search. But in terms of receiving an email once a week, you can turn it on or off as you please. Some statistics to leave you with, guys. So 95% of followers are more likely to respond to an email. And 79% of members are interested in job opportunities from companies that they are following. So why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because you should, if you are not already, be contacting your company followers or people who have engaged your talent brand, because statistically speaking, you're more likely to get the engagement. Okay, so in terms of tracking treasure along the way, so when you're signed into the recruiter and viewing an individual member's profile, you'll see a black box of recruiting tools available. So there's a few that I want to go through. So the star icon represents Update Me. Clicking this means that if in 2 months' time Jean starts to change her profile, I'll be updated. And also, if she's ready to make a move, let's say she selects that she's open to opportunities, then I'll receive notification as well. We can also set a reminder for a time in the future, maybe to contact Jean by clicking on the bell. So let's say I've had a great conversation with Jean, but she's just in the middle of a big project and she wants to see it through. And maybe I can then set a reminder to call her in 6 months' time. And that's where they are. Okay, guys, there are more options there available, obviously, under the recruiter tools. They're just the two sort of most useful, let's say, or the ones that I would find most useful. In terms of understanding your market, I wanted to highlight a search that you can do. So let's pretend that one of my clients is Euromoney. So I'm just going to do a blank search and then put the company, I'll put the company name under the company field, and I'll toggle this setting so that we are only searching for current employees of Euromoney. And what we can do is then we can save this as an alert. And I'm not much interested in the results that come back today, but I'm interested in the future people who change their employer through Euromoney. So I'll be notified when Euromoney hires somebody. And this is of interest to me whether Euromoney is, let's say, a direct competitor of mine or working in the same industry, but maybe it's an up and comer. But I can keep my finger on the pulse as regards to movement into that organization. And it gives me insights into really, let's say, how aggressive they're being, or if we're targeting the same type of people. So essentially, LinkedIn is acting as a watchdog for new hires. The other angle is that we set the company field with Euromoney, but we separate, but on a separate alert, we can change it to past, not current. And once I save this alert, I'll be notified when somebody leaves Euromoney. So if I have a strong relationship with, somebody within a particular department within Euromoney, let's say, I'm hiring IT developers or engineers, I'll keep track of who's leaving that company. And let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 people leave from the same department within a really short space of time, I get a very quick sense that maybe not all things are right within that company, and maybe then potentially I can reach out and have an engaging conversation and maybe get a hard role filled. So once again, LinkedIn is acting as a watchdog and trying to do some hard work for you. And you can set up alerts in little to no time, but this really gives you a pulse about what's going on. And you can use it for whatever is relevant for you. So once again, it could be your direct competitors, or it could be just some up-and-comers, or it could be just a general, when I'm sitting down with my manager, I can tell them what's happening in my industry, and this way I can stay ahead. So, if we track movement in and out of a company, either if we're working in sales, our business development call, or an in-mail introduction will be really powerful if we can reference things in a timely manner. And then, as I mentioned, if we're looking to have a role filled, I can take action straight away once I can see all this movement. Okay, guys, that is pretty much it from what we were looking at today. So we've had a look at really how to move from just an order taker to a strategic partner, a deep dive into some of the search filters. We've looked at some insights, re-emphasizing the spotlights. I know we would have spoken with them before, but really just re-emphasizing why they're important. And then finally, saving searches and alerts, but on market mapping and mapping movement. So I will pause now for any questions. We have about 15 minutes left. So I'm more than happy to stay on the line if we have many questions. For those of you who don't have any questions, you can feel free to log off now, and thank you very much for joining. As I mentioned, everybody will obviously get a copy of the recording and the presentation deck, so you can go through this at your own time and your own leisure. But I'll stay on the line for any questions now if anybody has any. Okay, yeah, just a quick one on the mapping movement. Let me just go back. So if I want to track, this is it. So if I want to track movement into the company, I just select it as current. And this particular company, Euromoney, that's just made up. So you put in whatever company you wish, but I put it as current. And then if I want to track movement out of that company, I put it to past, not current. So whatever is relevant for you, whatever you're trying to do. For those of you working in sales, this will give you a heads up. For those of you not working in sales and just working purely on HR, or if you're working on sales and HR, because some of you did tell me you're doing that, this would be really cool to try and utilize it. I would use this accompanied with the marketing insights, and I would be able to then form a strategy when I'm sitting down with my manager, and it looks like you've did your homework, basically. So we're giving you access to data that nobody else has. I hope that answers your question. Okay, guys, I don't see any more questions coming through. So I'm going to close this session down now. Once again, thank you so much for your time today. Natalia will be sending the follow-up with a link to a website that she's created as well. So please have a look at some of the material. There is other material available other than what we went through this morning. As I said at the outset, I don't like to run product-heavy sessions. That's the reason why they're short. When I was in Poland with you guys, I ran a 3-hour session, which would have been product-heavy. The idea today is not to bombard you with information, but really just to see what else is available out there. And then at your own leisure, you can read the other material available on Natalia's website. So guys, once again, enjoy your day. Thank you so much for your time, and it's a goodbye from me and Natalia.